All right, peace, chiefs and deers. It's Bronzebird here with another video. So, Fauci lied. And you know what's pretty funny about this? The last 2 years, there's been a couple of articles that sat up there and said that Fauci lied. About what? The Corona. You understand? So the thing about it is this, man. The World Health Organization, all these different things, it was a crazy ride for us. And I'm talking about people who's listening all around the world and understanding that this whole entire pandemic, they say, was not scheduled to happen. It was random. They wasn't really sure what the origins of what the pandemic was, where it came from. And when it came to Trump saying that it was leaked out of the lab and that it also was called the Chinese virus, a lot of people got upset. A lot of people said that Trump is disrespectful for calling it the Chinese virus and everything. Another campaign of trying to denounce Trump for what he said. But I am no one to come out here and say that I'm an active advocate and supporter of Donald Trump. I'm just telling you my viewpoints on what I think. But Dr. Fauci has been found to be lied about the whole entire thing about the Corona origin. And so I'm going to be sharing an article with you today with someone who's in a political office who also believes that Fauci lied, as well as him needing to be punished for his crimes against humanity, especially for the mandates that had to ensue once it came to the mandate, and once it came to Corona spreading the way it did in the United States specifically. So here it says, Fauci should be jailed over Corona's lies and mandates, Cruz tells CPAC. And it reads, shout outs to Todd Gilman, Oxon Hills, Maryland. Senator Ted Cruz demanded persecution for Dr. Anthony Fauci, telling conservative activists Thursday that the nation's most prominent public health expert lied about Corona-19's origin and destroyed lives by encouraging closure of schools and businesses and prodding Americans to wear masks and get inoculated. He led policies that destroyed people's lives, that hurt tens of millions of kids across this country and destroyed businesses, Cruz said at the Conservative Political Action Conference. He elevated politics over science and medicine. He told millions of American lies, willingly, knowingly, and glibly. Cruz has long denounced Fauci as a despot who committed perjury at a Senate hearing in May 2021, when the then head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases denied that the National Institutes of Health had ever funded gain-of-function research at China's Wuhan Institute of Virology. Such research involves altering viruses to make them more transmissible. Independent fact checkers say that evidence remains thin of U.S. funding for such research in China. The Wuhan lab has long been suspected as the source of the pandemic because it specializes in the sort of bat-carried pathogens that killed millions in the last 3 years, starting from a nearby wet market where meat from bats and other species is sold. By the way, CPAC is serving bat soup for lunch. It's delicious, Cruz quipped from the main stage as he taped a half-hour episode of his podcast with moderator Ben Ferguson and a guest freshman Senator J.D. Vance of Republican Ohio. That got a laugh. The first mention of Fauci drew widespread boos from the few hundred people in a huge hotel ballroom at National Harbor. The Department of Energy recently attributed the outbreak to a leak from the Wuhan lab that echoed the FBI's conclusion. For 2 years, that was derided as a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat wearing nutty theory. that you weren't allowed to say, or you'd get banned on social media, Cruz said, boasting that in March and April 2020, he had told his podcast audience the virus probably had leaked from that lab. Cruz made no distinction between whether the virus leaked from the lab and the separate, unsettled question of whether it was human-made. Fauci has shrugged off the Texas Republicans' attacks before. I should be prosecuted? What happened on January 6th, Senator? He said on CBS Face the Nation in November 2021, alluding to the mob that invaded the U.S. Capitol hoping to overturn Donald Trump's defeat. I'm just going to do my job. I'm going to be saving lives, and they're going to be lying. Cruz's attacks on Fauci dovetail with his promotion of vax skepticism. Last fall, Cruz asserted there was zero scientific basis for universal vax because the shots don't confer 100% protection. Medical experts and vax makers called that a misunderstanding of, or even dishonest, because vax are intended to reduce serious illness and health, not halt the spread of a disease. Fauci was director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases from 1984 to 2022. Under Republican President George W. Bush, Fauci oversaw creation of the president's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, a program credited with saving 25 million lives in the last 2 decades, mostly in Africa. When the corona pandemic hit 3 years ago, Fauci became the face of the Trump administration's response. He's continued at the White House as senior medical advisor under President Joe Biden. Cruz and other conservatives bristled from the outset of Fauci's advice and on behalf of the public health establishment to wear masks and later to get vaxxed. Many blame Fauci for restrictions on public gatherings and other mandates, nearly all of which emanated from state and local officials other than Biden's mandates for military personnel and federal workers and contractors. Asked in that Face the Nation interviewed whether he viewed Cruz's attacks as a way to deflect blame from Trump, Fauci added, "Of course, you have to be asleep not to figure that one out." The next day, Cruz hit back, telling Sean Hannity on Fox News that in his view, Dr. Fauci, I think, is the most dangerous bureaucrat in the history of the country. And the funny thing about this is a lot of what you take, regardless of what your views is on being inoculated or not, this whole entire thing that happened for the last 3 years, in my opinion, has been nothing more but a divide and conquer strategy in order to divide the American public and divide the world on their views about something as simple as putting something in your body and then forcing people to not have a livelihood and not be able to enjoy the things that they wanted to enjoy if they decided not to get inoculated. There's a lot of witchcraft that came into this whole entire game, so much so that even social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, or probably other places would basically put the Corona 19 thing on your card, the card on your the bottom of your videos, and even to the point they probably shadow banned you too if you spoke against that actual thing about being all the mandates of what Dr. Fauci was doing. My point is this: all of this could have been a scheme. Those that were deemed as conspiracy theorists, those that start to see what was going on, is it their fault that they was telling the truth? Would they establish as a truth, or was everybody wrong? Did the government actually say that they were trying to help people? Was this a cash grab? Was this about actually getting people to come together, or was this about dividing everyone? Also, what I would leave you with this, especially when it comes to Corona, was it really about eradicating the disease, or trying to claim that it's supposed to stop the spread when people would get sick with Corona again and they were inoculated? So there's a lot of ways to take this whole entire conversation. And I know probably YouTube is probably going to be in my ass for having this conversation, but it's all good. But the thing about it is, those that's paying attention out there, What do you think about this conversation? Who's right and who's wrong? Or does it or does not matter? In my opinion, there is some type of witchcraft that comes into this whole entire thing. A lot of the rituals that set forth when it came to demanding people do something like go to the hospital and take this. But, you know, that's my discretion. Give your thoughts in the comment section. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Peace.